Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Shaun Eller, Chief Business Officer at Ohio Gratings. Founded in 1970, they specialize in steel, aluminum, and stainless steel bar grating products for a variety of industrial and architectural applications. Their dedication to safety and durability has earned them a trusted reputation within the industry. As the Chief Business Officer, Shaun focuses on community engagement and nurturing synergy across all of Ohio Gratings entities. Over the years, he has taken on multiple roles, from drafting, design, and logistics to human resources and sales. He also acts as the company's ambassador, working to strengthen relationships within the communities Ohio Gratings serves. By launching several outreach programs, he has shown a strong commitment to giving back and supporting local initiatives. He is a licensed minister, once served as the company's dedicated chaplain, and penned The Balance in 2019, a book which offers insights into balancing the demands of an insistent society with personal development. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. One recent client was able to add over $900 per employee per year in extra cash flow by implementing one of our innovative programs. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the Chief Business Officer at Ohio Gratings, Inc., Shaun Eller. I appreciate you making the time to share your story today.
Thank you very much. Honored to do it.
Okay, Shaun, so I got to say, this is almost unheard of these days. You've been working with Ohio Gratings for 30 years. Tell us first how the opportunity to work there came about.
Yeah, that's a great story. And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. Hopefully, I'll do my best to make it interesting. You said interesting people. I'm not sure how interesting I am, but we'll try. So 30 years ago, I was working and really just needed a job. I had taken vocational drafting in high school at Timken Senior High School here in Canton. So I had not done drafting for a couple years. Applied for an ad in the newspaper. Back then, that's how you found jobs. And you didn't have the internet to, look up a company. So there's an ad in the paper, and it was very simple. It said, looking for a drafts person, must have metal experience, must have the most recent version of AutoCAD, and must have a 2-year degree. I didn't have a 2-year degree. I'd never done anything with metals. And I hadn't used CAD in 2 years because I was working for a land surveying company. So didn't meet any of the qualifications. I went ahead and mailed in my resume and got an interview, got a second interview, got a third interview. David Bartley, who was interviewing me, said, I don't know why I keep talking to you. You don't meet any of my qualifications. So he then asked me to come meet with his brother, John. Met with him and had a great conversation with him, and they made me an offer for a job. So I tell everybody, I got home from my interview. My wife said, what's grading, and is there enough of it to keep you busy? I said, well, I have no idea what grading is, and if I quit my job, hopefully they keep me busy. Well, 30 years later, they've kept me really busy, and I know a little bit more about grading than I used to. So, it's been a great ride. Started off in drafting. Soon after that, they asked me to move into sales, so I moved into sales. I did pastor church for about 11 years, and for part of that time, I did work part-time at Ohio Gratings and part-time at the church. And during that time, I did all kinds of different positions here at Ohio Gratings. Worked in outside service, coordinating outside services, worked in quality, worked on the shop floor quite a bit, running punch presses, helping fabricators, ran saws, loaded and unloaded trucks, did some purchasing. So it really got me a really nice broad background in all areas of the company. As it said in the intro, I did some time where I was doing evaluations and helping with hiring, and then I did work as the first chaplain we've had. We've had one ever since, but after a few years as chaplain and pastoring, the owner asked me to come back full time. And actually, he came in one morning. I don't know, it was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was out on the floor running a press, and he, did a little double take. What are you doing? I said, I've been coming out in the morning, to I picked up this habit called eating and had to figure out a way to keep eating. So, working some extra hours, and he was like, if you're going to be here, I don't want you running the press. I want you to, help run our detailing department and get into back, into management role if you would be interested in doing that.
So you were kind of working multiple roles at this point.
Yeah. When I asked to go part-time, once again, I was in sales. I'd already been in detailing, drafting. Detailing is in the steel world, the name for drafting. So some people think detailing it's cleaning your car, but it's really AutoCAD. So I had done both of those roles. So when I went part time, they were like, well, we can't really have a part time salesperson. So they kind of just put me wherever, and I filled in sales. Some people are on vacation. I filled in detailing, and around that time, our plant manager got cancer, and he went out. And when they did, they just told me basically to move into the general manager's office and do anything I can to help. So that's
sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, Shaun, but
absolutely.
There's a couple of questions that come to mind. First of all, kind of going back to the beginning when they first hired you, like you said, you didn't meet any of those 3 criteria. Why do you think they kept meeting with you? Why do you think they eventually offered you the job? What was it that they saw in you?
That's a great question. I don't know. Hopefully they don't regret it. They kept me around for 30 years. I tell people they moved me in so many positions because they can't find anything I'm good at. So hopefully one of these days they find something I can do right. But it's, I think, part of it, I think God just opened the door and made a connection that was meant to be is a big piece of it, in my opinion. One of the things, it was kind of interesting to me, I was a youth pastor at the time. And when I had my third interview, I said, David wanted me to meet his brother. And when I did, he just, when he saw youth pastor, he lit up. He's like, I have a vision. I want to have a chaplain someday. I just, and I had a third interview at another company in the area at the same time. And when it was, kind of similar, I'd met with the hiring manager 3 times, and then they wanted me to meet with the owner. And when he saw my application and saw youth pastor, he just went total opposite, went so negative. And he was like, so you're going to want Fridays off for your kiddie trips. And it was just like such a smack in the face. And compared to the third interview here, where, like I said, John just lit up. Like I have a vision for this to be a ministry too, and not just a company, not just grow a business, but make an impact on people's lives and do something different, which, obviously really resonated with me. And, my desire to help people and make an impact on people's lives. So John, I think that connection really, really helped. And, I did use CAD in high school. It just been a couple of years since I'd used it. So I was a little rusty. I had a nice portfolio of drawings and stuff I'd done, but honestly, I hadn't used CAD in a couple of years. I'd been out in a field crew doing land surveying. So it was, I think just the right connections. And I now in my new role, what I do now as chief business officer, I do a lot of work in the community, as you said. I do a lot of work with schools. I talk to high school students all the time, junior high students. And I tell students all the time that story because, if you apply for a job, you don't have the job now. So what do you lose? I didn't have the job when I made the application. If they didn't hire me, guess what? I didn't have the job, but I tried. I learned something. I grew. I improved my skills. I learned how, better interview. What's it hurt? Try it. And
I love this.
You still don't have the job. So
I love this message, Shaun. And I want to take a moment and just, give voice to it because I think so many times in life, and I've been guilty of this myself, where it's like there's a door that we could knock on, but it's like, I'm not big enough for that. I don't have the right skills, the personality, the education, whatever it is. And like you said, you had nothing to lose. Like, you send in your application, and if you don't get a call, you don't get an interview, you're in the same place. But at least you took a shot, right?
And you learn something.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
that's the truth. Yep. And I always try to I can learn something from anybody. It doesn't matter who I interact with. There's a lesson that they have. So if I met, even if it was just meeting a great person, a leader at a company, there's things that I can learn and grow from. And even the company that once again interviewed me 3 times, and they had actually made me an offer as well after that. The 4th interview with the owner. In both situations, Ohio Gratings and another company, one was very positive, one kind of had a negative slant there, but obviously they still both made me an offer. And from my standpoint, well, this one definitely aligns with my moral compass and my belief system, and that's
that was a big determining factor for you.
Easy decision which way to go. So
I want to explore the faith piece here for a moment, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It is surprising to me that the other company, who shall remain nameless, had such a negative take on your faith background, you being a youth minister. I mean, even if faith isn't something that is integral to your own life, I would think that somebody would see that and say, oh, this guy's probably a pretty upstanding individual. He probably has, like you said, a pretty good moral compass. Like, even if I don't have the same belief system as him, that's the type of person that, we would want kind of on the inside of our walls here. And then with the Bartleys saying, the complete opposite, which was, this is amazing. Like, this fits into our bigger plan. And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this. In my experience, and tell me if I'm just naive, it's a little unusual for a company to sort of want their even bigger mission to be more of, what was the word that you used? A ministry.
Yeah. And, I that's, why did the other company take the negative thing? I don't know. Maybe they had a bad experience. Maybe someone, wasn't, maybe ripped them off by, cutting out early or something. I don't know. I don't know what drove it, other than the fact that it was a great sign to me that this is where I need to go, because I was probably leaning a little more towards the other company until that interview. Honestly, just from, the 3 interviews I'd had at each place, and now, I'm grateful I made the decision I made. John, John's the owner of Ohio Gratings, and the other entities that we have, the acquisitions he's made. He's been very intentional with, he wants this to be a kingdom class company that's really glorifies God, is honoring to God, and it's a monumental, unachievable, but always something to strive for, and something to kind of motivate us to get better every day. So it's definitely sets a high standard, and unfortunately we don't always make it, but we keep trying. And
so, what does that look like internally? Like, what does it look like, the kingdom class, to make this a ministry? What's the employee experience like?
We do spend a lot of effort on culture. So we have a cultural officer. We do have a chaplain, full-time chaplain now. When I was chaplain, it was part-time, but we have a full-time chaplain now. We offer the class called Tapuku, which basically is an acronym. The only person you cheat is you. And it's the chaplain teaches it, setting goals in all of your life. It's not just about work. It's financial goals, relationship goals, spiritual goals, work goals, and it's the employees get paid to come to the class if they want to come, not forced to, but it's open. They in our lobby we have a book about Jesus. It's free to anybody, any employee that wants it, any guest or visitor that comes in. Just once again, it's not forced down anyone's throat. It's just it's available if that's what you want. A chaplain, and I played in that chaplain role. I won't say played in it, but I served in that chaplain role, I guess is a better term, for probably 4 years, 4.5 years, and it's coming from a strong faith background and family, uh, things that maybe were more natural to me, were or not everybody has that. So you get a lot of people that have no faith connection at all, and then when someone they lose a family member, or I remember one incident in particular. One of our associates had a heart attack, and his wife, they never were involved in any church, and his wife called me, and she's like, "Can you just come to the hospital? I'm a mess. I'm a basket case, and I don't know who to go to. I don't have family around, and so just to go sit and serve the role of what a pastor would do, was extremely meaningful to those the people that we served through the years. Doing a funeral, when someone passes in an associate's family, they don't know who to go to. They don't know. So I know, just recently, our chaplain did a funeral for one of our associates who had a family member pass away, and they didn't know who to go to. So that's stuff I did when I was chaplain, stuff that our chaplain now does. Once again, serve the associates and be available. And it doesn't mean we're perfect. We got a lot of things to work on and strive for, but trying to set that culture to where, once again, how do we, something else, if I'm rambling on, just stop me. But, in the role, as a chief business officer, and what we do with schools, last year we hired 40 high school students, from local, career tech programs, worked around their, we really strive to work around their schedule. We wanted them to have, number one, you got to graduate. That's the most important thing. And we're going to help you graduate. We're going to help you, if you want to play, it's your senior year of high school. If you want to play sports, play sports. If you want to play in the band, play in the band. If you got activities, do those activities. That's important. And we know, and the owner, we've talked about it, is they're not all going to stay with Ohio Gratings. They're not going to have a career here, but let's make an impact on their life in a positive way and see how we can help them, as they transition to adulthood, and how they're going to grow and develop as people. And if we can have a place in that, I know they're not going to stay. But
even if you can just sort of bend the arc of their life just a little bit more in a positive direction.
Yep.
What a great thing.
Do something positive to make an impact on them. So,
Shaun, I get to talk with a lot of business leaders, a lot of folks who faith is very important to them, who, make a lot of their decisions based on their spiritual beliefs. But I think this is the first company that I've come across that has it so integrated into their culture. A full-time chaplain, look at, the company as, becoming a ministry. And again, like you said, not in a way where it's being forced down people's throats, but it's there and it's available for them. And it sounds like this, obviously it's a huge part of your belief system, but John Bartley is the one who's really, sort of been driving this from the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. It's definitely part of him and his wife, Karen. They're both very involved in business, and it's definitely part of their belief system and what they want to do. That's their vision for the company. So I'm in a lot of ways the face I get, which is kind of sad. Couldn't found a better one, but I am out in the community a lot, do a lot. A lot of times I'm the one out front, but they're definitely behind the scenes, and that's the vision they want for Ohio Gratings.
That's really cool. I'm glad we got to explore that a little bit. Now I want to help people understand what gratings are, why they're important, where do they get used? Help educate us.
Like I said, when I first started, I had no clue, and now it's just still boggles my mind how much of it there is in the world. And hopefully, you'll never be able to walk down the sidewalk and not see a grading again after today's interview, or if you listen to it, because it's truly everywhere. Now, I drive out of my way on vacation to go see grading applications and drive my wife crazy. But it's deep rooted into us. So one of the places you'll probably most commonly see grading is if for the general public would be on city sidewalks. If any big city, especially if you go to like New York, New York City, subway systems, underground utilities. Every city has underground utilities. If you got tall buildings, you can't put transformers on power poles, so they put them underneath the sidewalk. Those have to breathe. So the most common, a lot of times people think that drainage is the most common.
That's what popped into my mind.
Usually it's venting is truly the most common reason, venting. But drainage is another factor, but it's more about airflow, and that's the biggest reason you see grading. And the most common place you might see it would be, once again, if you're walking down the street in Columbus, there's going to be transformers underground. Those probably have grading on top of them, and that's so that they can vent those. Famous picture of Marilyn Monroe walking across the grate and her dress flying up. That was cost grading, and that was subway grading, actually. So if you think about pushing a train through a tunnel, that air has to go somewhere. If you stand beside us on the street and a bus goes by, you can feel the wind from the bus. Just think about a train in a tunnel. That's pushing a lot of air, and somewhere that air has to escape. So they put big sections of grading in the sidewalk to let the air from a subway escape, and that's another big application that you might run into. Most grading, though, as far as the amount of tons we ship, is industrial flooring. It's a very inexpensive way to floor multiple levels of an industrial facility with access to equipment, piping, maybe valves or other things they need to get to for maintenance. Catwalks in factories, stadiums have grading in them, bridge decking. We own a company in Alabama called Frontier Gratings, and we also have a company here, OGI Bridge and Transportation, that focuses on bridge decking. So if you ever drove across an open deck bridge, great chance that we made it.
And why would you use that rather than just, laying down concrete or asphalt?
Great question. And it's all about weight. So most open deck bridges are lift bridges, swing span bridges, draw bridges. So when you get to a bridge that has to be a movable, or what they would call a heavy movable structure, weight becomes extremely important. And that's why they use open deck bridging. And people don't like driving across open deck bridges. Much rather drive across concrete because they feel a lot more comfortable. But when weight becomes a huge factor, because they have to move the bridge, that's why they use open deck bridging. So,
would I be correct in assuming that an open graded bridge is more expensive to produce than like a concrete or an asphalt, or do I have that backwards?
Well, the whole bridge would be more expensive because of the movable system,
right? But
the actual grading is cheaper than a concrete system and much lighter. So now, we do some, especially out of Fort Payne, Alabama, the Frontier Gratings is the company we own down there. They do what's called an exodermic bridge deck, and it actually gets a concrete fill in it. That is more expensive overall, but the durability of it. So it's a grating that's then got pans in it where they can pump concrete on top. And so you get a full covered surface, but you get the durability of the concrete plus the grating. So that's kind of like a duplex system.
And why would you want that? Where would be the use case for that?
The biggest reason is because it's going to last so much longer. So if you think about rebar in concrete.
I was just going to ask, is this like putting rebar in concrete to kind of reinforce it?
It's like rebar on steroids in concrete. So you're putting a whole grading system with the concrete. So it's going to last way, way longer than just concrete with rebar. And that's why. So if you got a bridge, once again, say New York City, where it's so expensive to shut the bridge down, it would become very feasible for them to use an exodermic deck that's made, with like split I-beams, and then put concrete over it. So you get the concrete fill. People are comfortable with it, but it's going to last for a much, much longer time than just concrete with rebar. That's the biggest reason. So the other big reason is they can do precasting. So when they say shut down a lane for just 8 hours a night, because traffic patterns are so important, where they can only take out so much and put down so much every night, they can do all the work off-site, precast it into an exodermic deck, and then
drop it in.
Yeah, drop it in overnight and get as much bridge replaced as they can during.
You're not waiting for it to cure and dry on
Correct.
Site. That's already been taken care of off-site.
Yep. And in high traffic areas, that's important.
Yeah. Shaun, the name of the company, at least the core company, is Ohio Gratings, but I've already heard you mention other facilities, other locations. Where all are you guys located?
Yeah. So as I joke around, John goes shopping and I get more work. But John, John has acquired a number of companies over the last few years. Frontier Gratings is in Fort Payne, Alabama. And we also built another plant there in Fort Payne. We just did a grand opening on Wednesday this week, so that was exciting. 45,000 square foot light duty grading fabrication facility. So now we have both those facilities in Fort Payne, Alabama, to give us a better presence down in the south east of the United States. So it's Fort Payne's a small community about 50 miles from Chattanooga, about an hour and 45 minutes from Nashville, Birmingham, and Atlanta. So kind of tucked up in the Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama corner there. We have a plant in Houston, Texas. I spent 8 years as general manager of that plant. So John moved me down there for a while to run that facility. It was a startup. I went down about a year after it started up, and then kind of had responsibility for everything there I think I was there almost 8 years. And then he moved me back to Ohio as a COO at that point, and then moved me to CBO. We got a company in Leola, Pennsylvania called K-Bar Products. They build the frames for Con Edison, which is New York City's electric company. So we build the grating, they build the frames, and then they buy the grating off us. We got a company in Baltimore, Maryland called Waco Products. They do sewer treatment gates and water treatment gates. They do a lot of Department of Defense work, ship platforms and Navy ships, gangways on ships. Got a company in Twinsburg, Ohio called KD Products. They do ornamental grading. So they do some bronze grading, do stainless steel, revolving door, specifically for revolving door entranceways. And they do, if you ever, you've walked across it for sure, Target, Walmart, Culver's, banks, where there's strips of carpet. Schools, a lot of schools have them. Entrance mats where there's actually strips of carpets and aluminum pans, so it gets the dirt off your feet on the way in. They manufacture those as well up at KD Products. And then we got some sales offices and engineering offices across the country as well.
So given the size and the weight of the products that you produce, I would guess that each of these facilities, the business tends to be more regional because freight would become a big issue. Is that true?
Yeah, freight's a big issue. Ohio is the big manufacturing hub for everything. Here in Canton, we have about 800,000 square feet. And that's kind of a cool transformation story. But, when I started, we had, 50 some people and about 85,000 square feet. Now in Canton, we have 800,000 square feet, and across all the companies, we're about 870 people. So it's been a great growth story, very exciting, never a dull moment. I tell people, if you're bored here, it's your problem, because there's definitely something to do. So always more to do than we can get done. So having a regional fabrication facility, all the manufacturing is here, but we send truckloads of panels to Houston and Fort Payne, Alabama, and that's where they fabricate them. We do also a lot of the raw material for the other companies such as KD, K-Bar, Waco, and Frontier Gratings. Since we buy coils of steel, 50 to 60,000 pound coils of steel, slit them, and make bar here in Canton. So we provide the bar for all the facilities as well. So it's those are the synergies between companies, and that's kind of the other part of my role is the community stuff and the synergies between the businesses. And especially, I'm really focused on KD in Twinsburg, Fort Payne, Alabama, and Texas. Those are all ones that I spend a lot of time with.
So, this is an industry that myself, a lot of other folks probably never thought about, never knew existed until today. But now that you're talking through it, it's like, oh, of course, I can see these use cases and the need for them. And Ohio Gratings and all the different, entities that John's gone shopping for are clearly not the only ones out there. So I'd like to explore a little bit about what sets you guys apart from the competition. And this may be a good time to talk about, some of the trademarks and the patents that you guys have filed for products like All Grip, On Grip, Wheels and Heels. Can you give voice to some of this for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that really sets us apart is just we call it solutioneering, engineering a solution. Example, there's a bridge, Grosse Ile Bridge in Michigan, and they called us movable bridge, 1,300-foot long bridge, 300 feet, so a whole football field spins or swings to let boats go through, swings back. So they basically called and said, "Hey, we got this bridge. The bridge decking is falling apart. It's only 20 some years old. We need a solution. We can't increase the weight of the bridge though, because we can't replace all the mechanical systems. So it has to weigh less. So find a solution that's going to weigh less." And we were able to come up with a riveted bridge deck where every other bar is lighter to make the load less, still handle the traffic pattern based on the supports. The sidewalk was a concrete sidewalk, obviously very heavy. Through the years, you could see the rebar rusted through it, and people were scared walking across it. It would chipped and fallen into the river. I went up I was a project manager at the time. I went up to the bridge the day, shut it down. You could literally pull bars right out of the bridge decking. They welded plates all over the place. It rattled. It was loud. It wasn't a very good situation. The sidewalk was, kind of scary. You're walking your kids across the sidewalk and it's, got busted pieces and you could see down into the river. And underneath the bridge, there was an inspection walkway, 2 2x10s that the inspector had to walk on in icy conditions in Michigan. So not ideal. We have a light I-bar, which is, at that time we were the only ones that made that product. And it's like little I-beams made out of aluminum that we were able to replace the inspection walkway with and give them a 3-foot wide.
So it makes it lighter, but is it still strong enough?
Yes, actually stronger, lighter, and it was wider. They walked on 2 2x10s. Now they had a 3-foot wide walkway that actually weighed less than 2 2x10s, and also allowed for drainage so it wouldn't get ice build up on it, and it was a slip resistant surface, so it wasn't slippery, so much safer for that inspector.
Sorry, I want to hear the rest of this story, but how do you make it slip resistant?
So that's some of our products that we have, On Grip and All Grip, are what we call traction safety products. So they are, On Grip is a spray. It's a trademark name. That one's not patented. All Grip is patented. It's actually like a weld stud. We use a metallized powder and shoot a laser into it. It's a patented process, patented product. We can put them on bars or on plate. And, friction is all, the coefficient of friction is what is really the kind of the measurement for slip resistance. And our On Grip and All Grip products are off the charts as far as the slip resistance. A lot of products might be in the 0.4s, 0.5s. All Grip and On Grip consistently test in the upper 0.8s and in the 0.9s. So on a scale up to 1. So it's once again very, very, very slip resistant.
And this coating that you put on, is that the All Grip or the On Grip product?
Both, either one of them. We could do
both are coating. Both and the coating is durable? Does it last?
Yes, it's actually metal. So the On Grip's a metal spray. So if you can almost envision 2 weld wires get shorted out, heated above the melting point, and embedded into the metal. So they become a very, very resistant. It's a metallizing. Once again, a lot of people do that. Our trademark is On Grip. All Grip is the patented one. We run a metallized powder, shoot a laser into it, and it becomes a weld stud. That weld stud is harder than the base metal. So it's very, very durable. It's going to last forever. As long as the structure's there, that All Grip's going to be there. We actually we're limited on how we can cut it after we put All Grip on it because it's so hard. It destroys a saw blade in no time. So we have other cutting options we have to use due to the hardness of that material and how durable it is.
Are you also using lasers there? Because anytime you use lasers, that's just a cool part of the story.
Yeah. We have a couple of laser tables. We got a tube laser, and we use lasers in the All Grip process. So we definitely use a lot of lasers.
Okay, so this
cool
project
facility. If you ever want to come see it.
You got me. I love to see manufacturing processes.
Come check us out.
There's that show that they used to do on History Channel. I think it was How It's Made. and they show like the manufacturing process for something common like a pen or, food or something. And I'm just fascinated at the automation there. So yeah, I'm going to take you up on that offer, Shaun.
Open invitation.
So, okay. So you had this interesting bridge product in Michigan that had some really, tight specifications. You got to make it lighter. You guys ended up making it wider, lighter, stronger because they couldn't replace the mechanicals, and you guys were able to hit all their requirements.
Yes, yeah, we were. And one of the things that was kind of interesting when it's a public bid, it's a county-owned bridge, so obviously open bid, but we had a big competitive advantage because we helped write the spec on all of it, and we were the only one to bid spec. Everybody else bid alternative products, which weren't working well, which is why they came to us. So that's one example of solutioneering. We engineered a solution. We work with the customer. We listen to the customer. What are your true needs here? How can we help you come up with a solution that's going to work in the long term? And that's just one example. The utility grates is another example, and another patented product is our wheels and heels grating. Wheels and Heels is wheel capable and high heel friendly, but they're ADA compliant. ADA stands for American with Disability Act. So
and so what is the grading? Just like the openings are very small.
So there's a lot of requirements to go with ADA to meet ADA requirements. You can't have elongated openings. A wheelchair could get stuck in. The biggest ones are it's got to be slip resistant. You can't have an opening over a ½ inch. You can't have openings that run parallel to the primary direction of travel. So all of the grates in a city sidewalk, the top surface bars are supposed to be perpendicular to the main lane of traffic. So those are some of the big requirements with grading when it comes to the ADA compliance. So we developed Wheels and Heels, and it's been over, I'd say over a decade. And a lot of it's been work with engineers, architects, utility companies. They need access to it. So how do you get into the utility vault to work on my transformer? So we've actually just this year rolled out some products we call Greater Balance that actually have lifting devices built into the product. So, before, the doors of these are so heavy, they'd have to bring a truck with a crane on it, and then you'd have to have a service truck. So they would bring 5 or 6 people out to work on a transformer, a couple trucks, and that's a lot of labor and cost. Now with these Greater Balance options that we have, we build these utility vault covers, and one person can actually. So they can bring a pickup truck with no crane and 2 people for safety reasons. They have 2 people work on them, one up top while one's down, and they can actually open it by themselves. I think it's like 30 pounds of force to lift a 600-pound door.
How is that? Is there like some sort of a winch or a motor or something that's built into it?
Like piston put underneath it. So think about your hatchback or in your car. They have it. This is just beefed up. So beefed up lift assist system. Some of them are mechanical with like a little hydraulic pump where they can actually plug in to open it. And now with Homeland Security, they have to have locking devices so that terrorists can't get into our power grid and destroy transformers that are powering skyscrapers. So through many years of developing these products and seeing what's the utility's true needs, we've engineered some products that are now patented that utilities across the country want because it saves them a lot of labor. It's very safe. It's secure. It doesn't get destroyed when the UPS driver drives down the sidewalk and runs across the grading and ruins it. It's ADA compliant, so it keeps the liability from them. So they're great products that we've done, and those are some of the things that really separate us. I think a lot of the backbone of grading is what they call 19W4. It's industrial grading, 1x4 basically openings, and carbon steel, and we do a lot of it. All the competitors do that, but we do a lot more specialty products than they do. We've been more solutioneered to do products that others don't. They just focus on the commodity.
I want to talk a little bit more about this because I think it dovetails into another question that I wanted to ask in terms of what you guys have found to be really good growth strategies. Obviously, there have been a number of acquisitions made, and that helps. But even your core facility there in Canton has grown considerably. And so, I heard you say that, you on that Michigan Bridge project, that you helped to write the spec, and then you've used the term solutioneered. And so I'm wondering, is this sort of a big part of your sales and marketing strategy, is to kind of get into the process like early on, so that you're kind of steering the specifications to be stuff that, only Ohio Gratings can meet?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. You kind of got two avenues, and that's the specialty products. We're definitely getting in early, getting with engineers, architects, finding solutions. We have an architectural division that does grading that really isn't walked on. So like sunscreens on buildings, handrail infills, trash enclosures, stuff that needs to breathe, but yet visual blocks is part of what you would see there. And a lot of architects like the metal look that grading can provide for the outside of a building. So that's part of it. The other part would be just kind of the day-to-day grading, and a lot of the growth there for the industrial grading, the commodity type stuff that we've done has been vertical integration. So when I started, we bought it from someone else and fabricated it. We manufactured aluminum, we manufactured some of these specialty products, but we didn't manufacture the backbone of grading, which was the commodity, big industrial. So you got big industrial plants. They have massive amounts of grading in them. We just fabricated them after we bought them from someone else. Through the years, we vertically integrated, where now we slit our own steel, make our own bar, weld the grading resistance weld the grading panels, not MIG weld. So we've got a lot of equipment, vertical integration through the years, and that's really been that side of the growth. So the special products growth and offering more solution driven products is part of the growth. The other part is getting more market share in commodities by vertically integrating and taking more control of our costs and lead time and capabilities.
I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shaun, that a big part of sort of your sales and marketing has to be education, letting folks know that, hey, there are different options than the commodities that maybe you're accustomed to, especially since you guys have so many patented products. Am I correct in that assumption? And if so, how do you go about that education process?
Well, we I don't know, it was before the interview started or we talked about the studio, and part of that's lunch and learns. We do a good bit of lunch and learns, trying to get into architects' space and engineers' space, offering an opportunity to educate them, get continuing education credits at times, depending on the session, to educate them on the different aspects of grading and what we can do. And a lot of it's just listening to our customers. What are the needs? And the city sidewalk market, which we talked about with the wheels and heels, is just such a perfect example of it, because I can go back 20 years ago where we did some wheels and heels in their infancy, and the first versions of it, the feedback was it met the specs, but it was ugly. It's got welds all over the top. We don't like it. So then it was like, okay, we thought it was great, but listening to them, I don't want that over my utility vault. I want something that's going to look better. Well, and then, so it's constantly revising, adjusting, listening to the customer, finding out what they need, and being flexible. Then as Homeland Security becomes more and more, I have to have locking devices. I have to way to lock this so that no one can just jump, get into one of my utility vaults and open a vault access panel. But then, so we come up with locking devices. We come up with better hinge devices so that the grading lays flat when you open it up instead of standing up. Or there's a way to keep that so it doesn't shut, and put someone in an unsafe situation. So, listening to them, continuing to develop what's the next steps. And, now to where even greater balance is part of what we do, where, they can send a truck with two technicians to go out there and open it by themselves with, 35 pounds of force to open a 600-pound door, and just, continue to find what's the next innovative step that's going to make them more efficient, and also provide something that their customer likes as well. The building owner that has to, put in a utility vault, the utility company is going to control the spec of what they want, but the owner of the building wants it to look good too. They just put up this beautiful, building for their offices. I don't want some ugly vault out there. So it's got to be functional. It's got to look good for the building owner, and it's got to be functional for the utility, and just listening through the process to come up with a solution that's best for everybody.
And you guys have solutions that check all those boxes, which is great.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Keep.
Hey,
we're
always
next.
improving. Yeah.
Yep. Who knows what's next? If we sit still, someone's going to pass us up. So got to keep figuring out more.
Can't rest on your laurels. So you guys at Ohio Gratings, you position yourself as a step ahead. What does that slogan personally mean to you? And how does that mindset sort of show up in day-to-day business decisions?
Yeah, one of our core values is transforming ourselves. And if take just a second, 5 core values that are very important to us. First one's character and trust, and it's about treating people respectfully, being respectful of other people, and that's an expectation here. I tell every new hire when I do hire orientation that it's expected that you treat people respectfully, and we expect people to treat you respectfully well. Honoring your commitments, which is, if you say you're going to do it. Operate with integrity, working with passion. If you're here, work hard. Do what you're supposed to do. The third or fourth one is sustaining our future. And it's, how are you contributing to profitability, making a better product. And the last one's transforming ourselves. And that's really where that step ahead comes in. Really, I think it really applies to all of them, but specifically transforming ourselves. What are the steps we're taking to stay ahead of not just the competition, but just to stay relevant in a fast moving industry with, automation and innovation is extremely important. Modernization of our processes. How do we continue to be better than we were yesterday and not get comfortable? The great book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. Good is the enemy of great. And if you think you're good, you get comfortable with good, you'll never be great. And I don't know where we're at in that good to great, but I know we're not where we need to be yet. So we've got to keep pushing to get better. And I constantly, and John and I talk about this all the time. And if I can use a biblical analogy, it's so easy to see all the things we do wrong, and every day, it's like can drive me nuts. I see the things we mess up on, and I told John, I've talked about this before. After in Genesis chapter 1 in the creation story, every day God saw it was good. The Bible says. And, it was still a mess after day 1, still a mess. Day 2 is still a mess. Still, day 3 is still a mess. But he stopped and said, you know what? That was good. And sometimes, John and I have talked about that. We got to stop sometime and recognize we've done a lot of good things, but we can't be too excited because we got a lot more to go, So after he separated light from darkness, he stopped and said, that was good, So I got to realize that,
these things can sort of coexist.
Exactly.
You can pat yourself on the back and said, wow, we've done something really great here.
And turn around, kick yourself in the butt and say,
and then say, we've got room to improve.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, constantly striving to not just see the bad, but also see the good and celebrate the good, but don't rest on the good. We got to, there's a lot more we got to work on.
So this idea of transforming yourself, it strikes me, Shaun, that this is something that you have personally done many, many, many times there at Ohio Gratings in the last 30 years, all the different roles that you filled. I'm curious to hear maybe one of those transitions that was, I don't know, the most challenging or surprising for you, and why.
Oh, that's a great question. Hopefully I transformed myself this morning and yesterday and the day before, because I know I've got a lot of things to work on and a lot of growth areas. There's been, tons of transformation. I started, once again, didn't even have an associate's degree. They wanted someone with an associate's degree. Through the years, I've been able to get, been blessed to get an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And, that's really transformed me. And a lot of it was, I have people ask me, should I get my degree or not? And John's not big on, saying you got to have a degree or not. It's, make good decisions, work hard, do your job. But the biggest things there were, I'd never done anything with finance. So I kind of come from my associate's degree, civil engineering. And as I grew in my career, getting into financial statements and P&Ls and balance sheets, I was totally ignorant of that side of the business. So I really had to focus on, I had to understand it better. So getting a degree helped me to grow in the financial side of the business. But the other thing is it kind of helped me be more confident. Some in the back of my mind was, am I just good because I landed at the right spot? And, if I went anywhere else, it would be, I'm really nothing. And I've told John this before, so I'm not saying something that I don't see myself as all that special. I got a good work ethic. I'm not a genius or anything. But I got a good set of skills, where I can, work with people. I can, common sense is uncommon. So it's a little bit of common sense and, things that I guess, make me who I am and the experiences I've had. And so, it's transforming myself. I think really, once again, has to happen constantly. Part of that was getting an education and developing a confidence that I could do this. I can do this. And, getting an MBA let me know, I'm okay as a leader. I can continue to grow. Doesn't mean I'm there, but it means I've got the tools that can be successful in different positions.
Shaun, tell me about The Balance. What is this?
So the book, yeah. So that's we've got 4 kids. My wife and I have 4 kids. In June will be 32 years of marriage. So it's kid 3 of the 4 that wasn't really into sports, but he wanted to write a book. And so, I coached my oldest in baseball and football and coached, so you kind of had that connection with him, playing sports and coaching them and working with them. But he wanted to write a book. And this is, back in when I was pastoring. We went through a really challenging time and don't want to drag the story out, but young man in our church got cancer. A couple months later died, left 4 young kids. Devastating situation. And I did a message on the balance, and I had so many people afterwards say, you need to write a book on that. That material was phenomenal. You should write a book on it. Well, my 3rd child, Elijah, wanted to write a book. So we kind of did where at least once a month, him and I would go to Panera on Saturday morning, and we would spend time working on our books. And, he was probably 7, 8 years old. But to him, he got an iPad and his grandpa gave him an iPad so he could work on his book. And him and I would go to Panera and buy breakfast, and we just sit there and I worked on the balance. And it took me probably a dozen years to write it. But it was kind of an outline from that message I had preached during that very challenging time for our whole church. It was very challenging to see that young mother with 4 little kids. And, he was just an alive, active, great guy, athletic. And, one day I was actually at breakfast with him, and he said, man, the doctor said I had to go get some tests today. And, just that little comment. And I was like, you feeling all right? Yeah. And that night he called me and said, I've got cancer, stage 4. And a couple months later, he was passed away. And so that kind of is what prompted it. And then, once again, just spending the time with my son was really what drove it. The content of the book came from the message that I gave during that challenging time, and encouragement from a number of the people in the church that you should put that into a book. And my wife and I have always tried very hard to, live healthy, live a balanced life the best we can. And, there's just so many challenges and struggles that we have as individuals and the demands of society, and the eating well, exercising. I believe in divine healing, but I also believe God gave us a brain to not eat fast food every day and expect God to heal us when we've done nothing to take care of ourselves. So that's kind of some of the emphasis of the balance. And one of the chapters,
finding balance through these different elements in your life.
Yeah, and just living a balanced life. Relationally and with God, with our spouse, with our kids, work, how to balance all those demands that we have on us.
It's actually a good segue into one of my favorite questions I always like to ask my guests, Shaun, which is, I'd like to hear about a serious challenge that you've overcome, whether it's personal or professional, maybe a combination of the two. What was it? How'd you get through it? What did you learn?
Yeah, actually, from a personal standpoint, I mentioned it in the book and talk a little bit about it, and I'm certainly not an expert at all, but I went through a situation with one of our children with mental health, and to the point of hospitalization for over 6 months, and over 4 hours away for a specialized unit, and that was by far the most challenging situation I've ever went through. Was dealing with that, and thank God that everything's done, or through that, and everything's good. But it was a very, very challenging situation. I talk a little bit about in the book. Mental health is such a hard topic because it's hard to wrap your brain around mental health, and a lot of church, doctors, even medical, don't know where to go with some of those issues and challenges. And I had no clue what I was doing. I was, it was all foreign territory to me. So very, very, very challenging situation. And, I look back on it, and, that old poem about footprints in the sand, during the hardest times he carried us. And that's the only thing I can think of is, God carried us through it, because I'm not sure how we make it through sometimes the situations we go through. But, been plenty of challenges in business, and moving to Texas was a big, 4 kids, moving it all the way across the country, and taking on a pretty challenging situation there. Like I said, they'd started the business a year before. John sent me there, and it was having some big issues with management and personalities, and a lot of changes needed to take place. And John kind of sent me there to try to work through it, and figure out what the best steps to continue to help it survive first off, and then grow. So that was a very challenging time. Right before that, if I can go into it for a second, and once again, just tell me shut up if I'm going too long. But we had a situation where Hurricane Ike that hit Texas. We were living in North Canton, and we'd just moved into the house, only been in there for a week, and we lost power. One of the guys in the church brought a generator over and put it in the garage, and we had a breezeway, but the way the wind was blowing, and we would only run it just enough to keep, I had some deer meat from hunting season in my freezer that he didn't want me to lose, and I didn't want to lose. And so we were just running enough to keep the freezer from thawing out the meat. So we'd run it for a little bit, but unbeknownst to us, the fumes had been building up in our house. And make a long story short, we almost all died from carbon monoxide poisoning. It was just a total act of God that we got a hold of the paramedics when we did. But if you look at the stages of carbon monoxide poisoning, the last stage 4, is vomiting, unconsciousness, and death. And I had been unconscious. My wife had passed out. She was unconscious. Both of us have been vomiting. I was in convulsions when they found me. And that was a big transition point, very, very challenging, took a lot out of us. And that's right when actually ended up resigning pastoring the church and moved to Texas. It was I think it's just been wearing, working full time, pastoring full time, and then having an incident like that in our lives that really kind of just rocked us. So,
how did help come to you if you guys had passed out? You knew enough to make a call before you lost consciousness, or?
Yeah, and that's where I wasn't sure how long you want me to go in the story, but so our two oldest kids went to their grandparents' house so they could do homeschool. The two youngest kids, one was just a few months old, the other one was 20 months older, so maybe 2 years old, and probably 2 years old and 4 or 5 months old. My wife and I were in bed. The baby had been crying all night. I felt sick. I got up and was trying to get to the toilet, but I didn't make it. I dropped, and I remember laying on the tile floor, and I've been vomiting, and I was thinking if I could just get to the carpet, it would feel so much better than this cold tile floor. And I couldn't move. I was just like stuck. And they, when carbon monoxide is, your brain just stops functioning. And I remember that specific moment, laying there thinking if I could just and I was only 2 feet away from carpet. And I've been vomiting, and I couldn't figure out what's wrong. And I still have no clue other than the hand of God. I somehow made it to my phone and called my parents. And we're both firstborn, never asked for help for anything. So my dad was like, "You've never asked me for help." It was 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, something like that. He was like, "I better get over there." We just moved there, so nobody else had a key. And this is the other thing. I have no clue other than the hand of God. Somehow I got downstairs and unlocked the door. My dad said, if he would have busted a window or something, because he said, "You guys have, 15, 18 years of marriage, you've never called asking for help." So I knew something had to be serious. When my wife saw, she had woke up and came around the bed to check on me. She passed out. And so she was unconscious on the floor. And so my mom went up, found her unconscious on the floor. I was downstairs. I'd unlocked the door, and I'd started once again vomiting, and I went unconscious again when my dad came in the house. So they called 911 immediately, and the paramedics came in our room. And if I remember the numbers, but something like a detector goes off at like 15 parts per million. Our room was over 250 parts per million. And in our blood, my wife and I both were, they said, death is, 1920. We were at 1920 parts in our blood, which one, I'm not a medical guy. I don't know the details, but basically they were saying,
you were right there.
No way you should have been alive.
You almost shouldn't be here.
Yeah. And, my son, the 2-year-old, came down the steps and was like, "Sweet, a fire truck. I'm going to be a fireman." But then he ended up passing out and started vomiting later. But he was in the other side of the house, which wasn't as bad. We had brought the baby into the room with us because he was just crying all night, but probably because of the effects of carbon monoxide. So they had to life transport us to Youngstown for treatments. And, once again, how in the world those things happen physically, I don't have a clue, but somehow God got us where we need to be. So,
well, thank goodness.
So those are some few challenges that we face. So
you picked out 3 pretty powerful ones, and I especially appreciate you sharing the story about your son. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been, particularly with being 4 hours away for 6 months. A time where you really want to be there and you want to be present all the time. It takes a stressful situation, just makes it even more challenging.
Yeah, it's very, very, very difficult. And a lot of times, due to the nature, there was only certain times we were even allowed to see him, and I might, drive up, and then they wouldn't let us see him, and drive 4.5 hours, and stayed in around McDonald House a lot when they had room. A lot of times I'd, visiting was 7 to 8, and drive up to see, and then drive home 8 o'clock, get home at 1:30, 2 in the morning, and get up and go to work, or go to one of my other kids' football games, or so just very, very challenging time.
I would imagine, Shaun, as you went through each of these challenges with your son, the big move to Texas, recovering from the carbon monoxide poisoning, just based on, what I've learned about you today, that faith was probably a big part of what helped to carry you through those hard times. Are there other things, other people, other, I don't know, practices that kind of helped you get through those really challenging times?
Yeah, obviously, faith being the top one for sure, and a great wife. So way better than I deserve. She's been
You and I are in
wonderful.
the same boat.
Yeah, I married way up, without a doubt. So way better than I deserve, and so she's been, wonderful partner through all of life, and very, very grateful for her. Great kids, and love them dearly. Great parents. Church, the church family has always been great. Wonderful leaders in my life, and very appreciative of all the things that God blessed us with.
Any particular daily habits or practices, rituals that help get you going, help keep you centered every day?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really a over the top structured person. So some people would say extremely boring. I like the word discipline. So, sounds better. So I do every morning. I try to get up and exercise. Try to keep some weights in the routine, cardio in the routine, prayer, read the Bible every morning. Just kind of set my compass for the day, and ask for help, because I certainly need it every day. I see myself all the time in a lot of mornings. I'm sure I did this morning. God, I got some decisions and things today that I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it. So I need you to bail me out. So if you can help me out, I appreciate it, because I'm in over my head. It feels like I live over my head. So that's why.
And Shaun, when that conversation takes place, I'm curious, how does the help or the answers appear to you?
Oh, I've been so many times. Sometimes it's just in the Word of God. I'll get an answer when I'm reading my Bible. It's like, oh wow, I kind of needed that today. That fits perfect. With what I'm dealing with. Sometimes it's just kind of that still small voice you see in the Bible. And I've been sitting in situations, and I'm thinking, dear Lord, I have no clue what to say or what to do. And then somehow I get some inspiration, or God brings a scripture to my mind, or a thought, and it's like, well, thanks, because that's way smarter than me. I'm not that smart. I don't know the internal makings of it, but I know He keeps bailing me out and helping me along the way. So propping me up.
That's great. Shaun, I've just got one more question for you, but before I ask it, I want to do two things. First of all, for everyone listening, I'm going to invite you to hit the follow button on your favorite podcast app so you can continue to get more great interviews like we've had with Shaun Eller, the Chief Business Officer of Ohio Gratings today. Shaun, I also want to let people know the best way either to get in touch with you directly or to continue to follow your story or that of Ohio Gratings. What would that be?
Yeah, so my email, SELLER, first initial, last name, at ohiogratings.com, OHIOGRATINGS.com. Cell phone number, 330-418-6255. It's, text or call. OhioGratings.com. You can check out the company. So those are all different ways to get in touch. And, once again, if I can be a help, I'll do my best. So that's what I shoot
nice.
for.
Last question for you, Shaun. As you look to the future, what exciting changes do you see coming to the business in the next few years?
That's a great question. And, a lot of things that I see that we've done, if you would ask us, 20 years ago, we'd be where we are today and never would have had a clue how some of this looks. And, one of the things that I love, Truett Cathy, former president, founder, Chick-fil-A, he tells a story. One time he was in a meeting with their board, and I think it was Boston Market was one of their big competitors and was, they were like, Boston market's taking all kinds of market share and, in this space. And what are we going to do? How are we going to get bigger? How are we going to grow? And he said, they spent an hour talking about how they're going to grow, how they're going to get bigger. And finally he just stopped them and said, you know what? Forget talking about how we're going to get bigger. Let's figure out how to get better. And if we figure out how to get better, our customers will demand that we get bigger. And that's something we've tried to live by, stealing that from him. But we just got to figure out how to get better and keep getting better and keep getting better and keep getting better. Innovate, automate, modernize, continue to figure out ways that we can serve our customers and our associates and our marketplace. And as we serve them, they're going to keep demanding that we can produce more product and we can get bigger. And, what that looks like, I don't know. Every day, I think we're finding new things that can make us more efficient, can make us better, can make a better impact on our associates. Our mission is to be a first choice organization for our associates, our customers, and our marketplace. And we chose that first, associates, because we can't do anything without our people. And, we don't have no customers if we can't take care of our people and produce products that they need. And also our customers and our marketplace. So what meets the demands of our customers, what meets the demands of our marketplace, and serving our associates so that we can stay a step ahead and continue to grow and thrive as a business. So I don't know if that was a good answer to your question, but
it was the perfect answer, Shaun.
We got to keep getting better is what we've got to do, and find ways to do that every day.
I love it. Shaun, I want to be the first one to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully this is helpful. And please feel free to reach out if I can be of any assistance.
That's great. Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.